Kislev, Samech Vav, page 7.
Toshin Samech. Right, so we saw the interview here with Torah, what the mentions Miyageya Esatz me La'ayin or Lahakshes, and he goes through stages of clarification in the bureau, and then he reaches a final point where it seems to be a Helen completely, and then through a new effort and a renewed approach to the union, also through the medium of a new kasha and new inquiry into the union, and he comes to a completely new maskana. And we saw that through that Helen Vester, the kasha is, he reaches even higher than the madrega in nefesh, which is reached through the koyach havoyer choizel. Because we saw in the previous drushim Avram Tzoki Bo B'Yomim that through the Helen Vester the kashiyas, then the kashiyas and the oifen learning and the oifen veda in the kashiyas was described as the koyach havoyer choizel. And interesting enough, we saw at some length about that in the moment that we learned in Rosh Hashanah, prior to Rosh Hashanah, description of the whole Indian Penimi of Choizer. And we saw that he's Magia, Bekoyach HaChochma HaAtzmi, Davke, Mashiv Pinus Yoshor, but that's how the Torah is Nimshach. Maila Lamata, both in the Gilui Mitzad Eibishter and in the Nefesh, no Maila Lamata, Yoshor, Ein Nimshach Mishon. A commission is Boa Li'il Bedrush Shalif Neza. That's Avram Zokim Boba. Yeah, we get down that far?
Yeah, we got down a little bit farther.
Yeah, we go down a little bit further than that, I think. Yeah. Omno, Yesh B'Zo'id Maila. We saw that there was a further great mile in the Aveda of the Kushiyas, with Tirutzim Noisef of what he reaches, the Koyach HaYuli HaAtzmi, as we described it over there. That he comes in Nefesh even higher than the Koyach HaMakil. He comes into the Moki V'Shorech, the Gilui HaChochma, how it is in the Kolol, in the Etzem HaNefesh, we call over there the Koyach HaYuli HaAtzmi. And we saw that gives him a much profounder and deeper insight into Yonei HaTorah L'mayla, completely from the Oifen Harogio, and we compared that to the Pasuk in Yeshaya Novi that he began with the whole drush. He put down the Zohar Kodesh, that Ayin Lo Yeroso Elokim Zulosecha Ya'aseh L'mechak Eloi, he will do for he who will make, and he will bring davke for those who wait for him, as it were. And we brought down the Zohar HaKodesh, that means man, the daikinin, of mi'achiv lein b'milin, the chukmasa, that they hold, and they literally, they hold back, and they're continuously medactic and following up one inyan after the other in milin, the chukmasa of Torah. So they come to that inyan of ayin lo yeroso elokim zulo Secha, as I'm in Madrega in Torah, that only the Eibishter knows about it. Only the Eibishter Kavyochum has seen and knows of that Madrega, and we saw that was both in the Gila of Torah, how it is Mitzad Nomaila, and in the Nefesh Odom. Now the Rebbe said, even Legabi that achievement, through the Pilpul and the Iyun and the effort in the Indian Akashi, he comes to an even greater Maila that he's Mavara, the Pesigim and the Sigim and the Peselas Sher Ba'aseichel. Ad Shietza Hadova Muskal Zach V'Noki Belishum Taru Peselas Klar. We saw that Meir V'Zeh Oyer Elyon, that then shines and lights into that a Oyer Elyon, or Kemosh Anoreim Ba'Soga says the Inyan When a mensch has been already maskere in him, but then he deals with it and he's makshe, he asks on it all sorts of stiras and kushiyas, umetarets, and nonetheless he managed to answer them and to settle and to be miyashe, as we call it, the different kushiyas. Nasetzloi bohir yeser ha'inyan umeir boi yeser imi yeser leina teisef loi bazeh eza oimek yeser alideh kushiyas. I think we got that far, right? That even though no new profundity in the etzem dimension of the seichel has occurred, we saw an union of oil with its meir, oil yeser, we saw its bohir v'zach, what does also the shyness of light and illumination. Meir boy oil yeser, even though there's been no change in the Edom Oimek of his hasoga in that inyan, it's a rock. Shenase bohir yeser, be'etem, alidei shemakshu tare. Why is that? Why does it become more pure and more shining and more giving of light? The small impurities, the little specks of impurity which are still inside the earth are purified out. There comes a shiningness or a clarity and illumination. From bohir, what bohir means, a illuminated, lit up thing, and it's all in that seichel itself. Agam she'ein boy oimek yeser mitad seichel, meir boy oyer yeser. V'hainu, and the reason for that, lafisha oyer seichel kamoishu hu b'derech oyer yosho. That the light of the seichel, how it is b'derech oyer yosho, the way it comes directly from the koiches of the nefesh downwards, not with the chayzer, and mitzad how the gili is mumayla also boifim kazeh. The yesha ain't ze amitius ha'oyer, due to the fact that that's not the emskite, the genuineness of the oyer of that asoger, mamish, adayin, as yesh boi tarev psilas. There's a certain trace of a mixture of what you might call impure material, psilas. V'hein hakushiyas, and that tarivas is expressed by the kashiyas. In other words, not the psilas is the actual kashiyas. What we mean is the necessity of the kashiyas to work against certain pratim in the muskal is because there's this certain trace of psilas still there inside the muskal. Through the medium of his asking the kashiyas and his going back and forth and pulling himself, I don't know how to say that in English. Canal, harihu mavarer kol asigim, he takes out and he purifies and separates off from the actual muskal all of the specks of impurity and the traces of impurity, traces of almost of waste material, as you might say. Like we filter wine in a mishameres. A mishameres is a small instrument which is like a filter. It's like a filter. It filters the wine. Yeah, mishameres put down in the Shabbos. Yeah, kama piyomim shebechol pam moitzi af hasigim hayosa dakim. Each time you put it through the filter and you shake it and leave it standing for a while and so on, then a little more delicate traces of small, delicate pieces of whatever it is, of the pieces of the grapes or other things that were in the wine, they get taken out. until the wine comes out delicate and pure, tzalul, clear, legamri. It's clear of all little traces of unwanted material. That when you discuss back and forth Ainin in Seichel and Ainin in Torah, it's very stuffy in here. The air is very heavy. I mean, it's not cold outside. I think a little bit of air wouldn't do anybody any harm. And you stand up all these things, whatever little bit of window we got, you stand up all these, this never occurs to anybody to open a window with a little bit of air. Even that's enough. Open it a little bit more. Okay, that's good. That should let them know. When everybody starts putting on their sweaters and everything, well, what can we do? We have to have a bit of fresh air. Because as an effect, I can see that after the work, but we have to attribute that to the heaviness of the air, not to the heaviness of the nefesh, chas v'sholem. וכמו כן, הנה הפלפול הוא להוסיר הפסיגים והפסילס, והוא על ידי ריבוי הקושיות והתירוצים, through the manyness of the kashas and the answers, שהפסילס נדחה ומאיר אור האמס. You push away the pseilas and it's מאיר אור האמס. וכמו מצרף לכסף, well, that's a pasuk in Mishlei, Matzaref Lakesef, Smithy, who's called a Matzaref, he's called like somebody who purifies. The Tzaref means literally to, it can mean to link it up with something else, but it also means to purify or to filter. Matzaref Lakesef, Shashaleves, Oise Bilbu V'Ta'arives Ba'Kesef, Oile V'Yoren, that they heat the kesef in such a way that it almost sort of boils, it becomes restless, it sort of moves back and forth inside their keli with the fire. Shalevis meaning the flame coming out from underneath it, and it causes it to go up and down. Mizbarer hasig, remember that drops out into some other little part of the keli, the small traces of impurity. And that's called smithy. Yeah, it's called a silversmith. That's what he used to be called in the old days. But one of his tasks was to purify the silver by burning it and turning it over and over in fire and other such in your name. So, first of all, you get to a teretz and then you cancel that teretz. You rule that one out, and then you start over again. Alidei kol zeh, achachach meir oyer ha'emes, k'moi shehu li'ami toseh. Then there shines, and there is meir the oyer of the emes, k'moi shehu li'ami toseh. So we have to be mispointed in this whole piece. We see here a whole series of lashonos which occur, indicating the concept of light. They all indicate the idea of bahir, means something which is very clear and lit up, illuminated. Zach is something also a candlelight that burns, very, very whitely and pure. It's called zach. Also the shemen which burns is called shemen zayis, zach. It's also pure of any little impurities that can sometimes occur in the tree or from the squeezing, etc. Etc. And then we see the infant oyer elyoin, and then we see amitius oyer, and then we see oyer ha'emes, and then he writes over here, oyer ha'emes k'moi shehu lamitosei. The oyer of the emes, like it is according to its emesness. Emitosei, oyer emes lamitosei. Well, for that it's mashma that you could maybe have emes, but not mamish emes lamitosei. You could have emes, that's also mamish emes. Okay, mavur barichas in certain Jewish exodus, the difference between emes and emes lamitoi. Well, that's what we see, for example, when I get, the Gemara says in Masechta Eiduvin, when I get to Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, and it says Eilu va'Eilu Divrei Elokim Chayim, both of them are Divrei Elokim Chayim, Aval, nonetheless the halacha is dafka according to Beis Hillel, and it gives certain reasons. I was saying Kanamachim Laharich, but why it is the halacha is dafka according to Beis Hillel, even though the Bryce over there adds certain reasons why that is. So if that's Divrei Elokim Chayim, then was it the Hebdel Ben Zela Zeh? I mean that's Divrei Elokim Chayim. Beis Shammai is Divrei Elokim Chayim, and Beis Hillel Divrei Elokim Chayim. The answer is that you got into a gufa emes, and then you got emes le amitoi. You know, that's in emes gufa emes emes. And like we find, if you look up in Perek Yud Gimel in Tanya, towards the end of that Perek, the Alter Rebbe also brings, and he says that there's a emes how it is by a Beinoni, and there's a emes how it is by a Chadi. And he says that the emes of the Beinoni is also a emes. Yeah, because he all the time keeps coming back every day, and he's always coming back to his madrega, even though he loses it somewhat after davening, etc., etc. And that's also called emes. Over the emes of a tzaddik is an emes which is the whole time and never goes up and down. It's never poishik. Yeah, so he calls that emes left. He calls that in another madrega for emes. This is what he calls the sfas emes, and then there's emes lamita. In the end, he says really both of them are emes, and in a way, the Beinoni can be compared to the tzaddik, etc. We see always in Tanya the tremendous love and admiration that the Alter Rebbe has for the Beinoni. So he always sort of puts the Beinoni back in a very honourable position in all the discussions in Tanya. We're saying Kanamokim, Larich Bezer, the Konis Lekora Inyan Azeh. However, we see that there's emes and there's emes lamito, and that's got to do here with oil, with light. And when he was talking in my previous mimer, you can go back into the koyach hamaskil, and in that gufa into the koyach hamaskil hayuli, and you draw from the mokeh ha'achmi in nefesh and in Torah. So he didn't say that was like the tachlis ha'oyer, the bahilus ha'oyer, and all these lashonos that he's moisef now. So we have to say then, we have to understand where we move, what kilo b'meh hoyinu or eifo anach nashav. What were we? Where were we? And what are we kilo lemanik nasnu koetz? So we have to say that in every muskal there's what we call the asogya from the muskal. And in a soga there can be kama madregas and oifanim, hey masik dezach, and mitzadezi uifen in your nefesh your masik dezach, and mitzadezi tzad koyach in the nefesh your masik dezach. Over that's all the koyach of the power of the nefesh to be masik and to understand. And then there's what that understanding and what that message that the mensch is masik. And if he's masik on a higher madrega than he should be able, and it should be a cholte to get more into this inyan, and it is that way, kamuvan. There's what that message or that seichel, what it really has to say. Not just that you understood it, but what is the oyer? In other words, how does that illuminate the whole life of the person who understood it and throws light into his life? In other words, what's the difference between being in the darkness and light? Is that when you're in light, you see things, you observe, and you're aware of all sorts of factors and delicacies in the situation that if it's dark, you don't know about it. I mean, you only know is what's going on if you're lucky. But once there's oil, then you see all the details. And mamela, illumination is another idea. Illumination shows you another vista, in the Indian, that you see a lot more what it really has to say when I get to the significance of life and of existence of Eidush Hashem and Biru B'Teich Ha'olam more than just the actual understanding of it. Well, that's enough an oil. In other words, the oil is meir and illuminates, and it shows you what is the real purpose and what is the function, with what can we do with that seichel today to illuminate the world. And therefore, the emissary union of that union, the immediate union of that oil, what he calls here, the union from oil boy mit unten doing, or that's what it's mashma in the Zohar Kodesh over there, and it's mashma mitoch union. That's going to be emes taken from Yad now when Mashiach will, I don't know when Mashiach will come, when Mashiach comes. When he just megala himself, and then we will see the oil that then the whole world will be illuminated. We'll see existence. We'll see Elikus. We'll see everything. We'll see the world and the Nivroim and Gashmias, Baruknias, Gam Yachad in another oven completely. It'll be all illuminated, and everybody will come and say, "Ooh, why didn't I notice this before? Why didn't I realize this before? What a schlepper I was, and I was just the whole time hacking my head in the Gashmias and in the Chumrias of Chulav. If only I were made, I thought, look at this, I thought that's like another existence, and another form of existence, another world, as is well known, Olam Chodosh, Shamayim V'Sorah Chadoshim, that's going to be one of the Inyanim of Melech HaMashiach. So what I was saying is that even prior to Mashiach, you can get this illumination where you see everything differently. And the Alter Rebbe brings over there in the Good Step Pashachah, the famous portion, where the Alter Rebbe says that even before Mashiach, when a man comes to Me'ah V'Yesrim Shana, Achrei Kol Avidose V'Shleim V'Sinyonim V'Tech Chayim in this world, after Me'ah V'Yesrim Shana, and he goes up into the Olam HaEmes, and all of a sudden he chaps himself with kafar. The man sees, the emes, how it is, everything mitzat Torah, and he says, what did I waste myself? I wasted my time so horrifically. And he's full of this busha and upset. There are so many precious hours and years and so on of his life he spent on Inyanim, which was soft only Helenver, Hester, upon him. Not in Yonim Ikarim, how it is mitzad the immediate Hamatzias of the Elam, even the Elam Kamoshavu after. And I found that's the type of oil. Oil illuminates and shows what is the real story, in what is it proper to be busy, what is worth to be busy, etc., etc., because you see things differently. Like you say about a man, he's got a good insight, he sees things differently. And why is it that Emerson Novi is able to tell things as he did? Because his eyes are not bothered anymore with all. He sees, it's lit up by him, he sees things. He just sees all, you don't know how they're going to be, not only Oid Rega, but Oid Kama Chadoshim, Vashonim, Ribu Shonim, V'chulei, and that's the union of Re'iyah. And the Fana says the Rebbe, that's what happens, Li'achri, what I mean. First of all, Kamoy Yishamavur B'drush HaKoidim, Avraham Zochim, he comes to the highest way that you can be Masik. And he's not going to be Masik any higher than that. That's what he says in the bracket. Mamish higher in the actual grasping, you won't be. But it could be that's all for the time being Seichel. That's all for the time being reasoning. There should be the illumination that comes with that, and that should light out in such a way that you see the whole union of existence, and you see Elikus differently, and Mameli see the whole union of life and the world completely with a illuminate. You look at these things that you never noticed before, and you chop yourself by the cup, you say, why didn't I see all this before? Or that union is what happens through the extra mile of Nosefers. In other words, no matter how hard you worked in order to get to such a high oifen of Hasoge, you're still not satisfied. He said he begins a new form of bira in that gufa, in that matzav. What he reached, he's no longer satisfied with that either, and he's makshiv mataritz oidapam. So kamuvan, that makshiv mataritz oidapam is in a deeper and more delicate way than what it was even before in the whole Indian, as we saw in Avraham Zochim, Barber. Yomim, and there was at the river, that's a new type of Indian for people, and that Indian is to be like the Mishameres with the wine. It's like a sieve. Its whole purpose is to take out the still little traces of impurity in the seichel, and to cause it to light up and show you the. So what are the types? Emes are the types that you see. The eating commotion. The emes is seeing. And when a person, I saw it, you can never shake him from it. He'll never be able to in any way hold differently or to be shaken from that Indian, because he'll say, I saw it with my eye. As is well known, when a man saw something, you can ask him, and you can be maval to him, I've said this morning him, unless he just keeps saying, but I saw it with my eyes. It actually happened. And to get it, that's called emet. Well, that's called where you see the Indian, the aim is called Suffolk Yoter. Well, this is the Indian emet. The more bohir that becomes, it becomes in the emes itself. Emes leah amitoi, that there can be emes. Yes, it's not anymore, God forbid, the sheker. And it's not anymore, a falsity or a wrong or a misguided angle. It's the emes. Or be in that good, there can be further in the emes. Like we see, there can be a bainan, there can be a tzaddik. There's all different oifanim in emes kufa. Even in the emes, you can go higher. That's the union of emes le'am amitoi. So how do you come to that emes la'amita? The light that you're using is a much more brighter light. The fluorescent turns into a chayzun, was a floodlight or a chayzun. Yeah, how do you call it? One of those things that they have out on the coast that lights out into the sea.
Lighthouse.
Huh?
Lighthouse.
A lighthouse. Yeah, it becomes one of a lighthouse. Well, I saw one of them down there in Perth, at the bottom of the. Well, you don't know anything about Perth.
He's from Perth.
Oh, you're from New Zealand. No.
He's from Perth.
Are you from Perth?
He's from Perth.
Oh, yeah, down at the bottom there. Somewhere over that way, I don't know. They've got a big lighthouse. It's out over there. They do, not Perth, so it's a long way out of Perth. But they got this whacking great lighthouse. I was down there a few years ago. I saw the lighthouse. And then waited till dark and we saw it light up. It's a powerful thing. It shines out this whacking great light all the way into the sea. Anyway, that's a very powerful light, because if you see it like that with a light close up, then everything just comes like day. It's even maybe in some ways even more illuminated. The day just lights up all details. Well, that's emes la'amitoi. Then there's not nisha any Indian of Suffolk or any door was built bahir. What was the chiddush that we saw? That nonetheless, how can you say that in a seichel which comes mitzad the purity of Yoshua, such a madrege the hiyuli of chokhmah is l'mayla, and it's musag alidei the hiyuli from the chokhmah the nefesh or adam? How can an app see him absurd beklal? That was another shayla to be out. So that we were taught to our great Tsar, that Koloid, that there's a union from Golas, and Koloid, like his mother in Tanya in Geras HaKodesh, chapter 26, the Alter Rebbe says over there that even the Talmidei Chachomim, that their avodah can still be, to be Mavara, the facility. They have to be in Torah Gufa. And how can you have in Torah and even Sigim? That doesn't mean the fact that everything is under a certain government of the Ilona de Teva Torah. The union from Teva caused like a mixture, a trace of impurities in all the madrigas. I feel in the madrigas of Torah. That's what we saw. There was a yerida, even in the Gilui of Torah, how it is to Yidden. Therefore, you need the whole union from the Moshe Rabbeinu through the fact that he hit the rock. There was a yerida and a fall into a necessity, even in Torah, to look for the emes la'amitoi, which can only come through the fact that we are mavara that emes through our limud and our efforts, and that's a very big chiddush. To say that of Isaiah, we have to say that was the limit of the Tanoi and Vamorayim, that had they not been mavara and had after all the kashrus and tirutim and the whole portions of the Torah would have been left under this shlita. The clippers, not that the clippers are actually mamish magbil the Torah, but they can be milu master. We don't see the emes la'amitoi. That's the musik of the sigim and the And the first you listen to the whole pupil, what he compares it to the smithy, heating the castle that goes up and down and moves around. Well, that's literally what you might call the friction, which is caused through the union of the kashas in the terutzim, and then it comes a clear and brightly illuminated piece of kesef at the siyum of the whole piula. And through all of those inyonim, we come to light up the world, and that's what we see. The davke, those who are oisik in pnimis haTorah, and davke those that are oisik in pnimis haTorah, the way the Rebbeim gave us the Torah, and the way it's Yutas Kislev that the Alter Rebbe gave the Torah through the Sefer HaTanya. He gave it to the world. Well, that people who learn that way, and they're dovik in those Rebbeim, the Rebbeim that were the descendants of the Alter Rebbe, and it all finishes off with the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach. When you're dovik in that way, then you see it's lit up, and it becomes illuminated what you have to do and what you have to say, and what is the ikar and what is not the ikar, what is b'klal not even it's not even to be considered, etc., etc. And it's dafki those who are dovik in that way that are able to be the leaders and the lamp-lighters, is the famous expression of the Rebbe Rashab. That they light up the lanterns, they go around the streets and light up in the old days, they used to have a guy that went around, he lit up the gas lights or whatever they were, even kerosene, and they used to call him a lanterner. He was called in Yiddish a lanterner, just like the lighter of the lamp. It's a lanterner. So a famous sikh in the Rebbe Rashab, Yid happened to come in. He heard the Rebbe Rashab to him about Sizzin. He said to the Rebbe, what is a chosid? What are these people that they follow your way? So the Rebbe Rashab answered him, and he said, those what they go and they listen to me, then they're lanterners. These guys that go around lighting up the lights. Yeah, that's what he said. At least I answer Sira. When the Rebbe Rashab. So we have to be lanterners. We have to be guys who go down and light up the lights. How can you do that when you yourself have a highest in light? When you want the light should be everywhere, and you want to spread the light, because you yourself are saying that some of the light, and the evidence would show to what more and more of the light. Remember that, if you look carefully in this whole passage, well, that's a chiddush adorah. May oil ha'emes. And as he said, through that pool of the smithy, then he comes to a inyan from a clear kesef. It calls there, may oil ha'emes, k'moy shehu la'mito soy. In emes gufa, the emes of the emes. He said, v'zohu b'machshachim hui shavani, ze Talmud Bavli, shenikra choshech v'helem. But it's one on, the Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin, brings down a pasuk in the Eichel. That Yirmiyahu Hanavi said that b'machashachim hoishivani, that in the dark places you have caused me to sit. You've set me down in the dark places, and the Gemara says Zeh Talmud Bavli. I mean, the eyes jump with consternation when I see that the Talmud Bavli is called Machshachim. It's called a place of darkness. And the Rebbe said, oh yes, it's called the Choshech v'helem. But not Chas v'sholem, that the Talmud Bavli is Choshech v'helem. At the beginning, it uses a form of Choshech v'helem to stir you into a much greater a grasp of light. This Indian of burning the kesef and turning it over with fire. Now we see that the function of the kashi is that they cause like a darkness and a hilem over the hasogya, like the Alter brings over there in that famous Igeros in chapter 26 in Igeros Sakaridish, that each kashya is like a representation of the koyach of the sitra achra, not chas v'sholem, but the kashyas are sitra achra, but they come from this hilem that was caused by the the Yerida into the Golas of the whole Jewish people and all the Inyonei HaKiddush, including Torah, that there's like a Helen V'Esther on every Inyan. Alidei, what you ask the Kashia, you get into the passageway that will help you get to that emes underneath the Kashia, and that's the Teretz. The Teretz is that you then move away of that Kashia and you take off that Helen. And so the Hachshu Rahalim Kol Eras, V'hu B'derach Oyer Choize Milmatala Maila Lahalim Kol Dova Behelem Achar Helium. In other words, that if you're an Oyer Choizenik, then you doubt you to a certain extent, you look for Helium. Not that Chas v'Shalom you're looking for Helium, but you know that until you get through the different Helims, you're not going to get a pure light. And therefore, you battle your way through the different Helims. And that is the Inyan van Choize, but the Inyan van Yoshua, the person doesn't notice the Helims. He's so busy just bringing things down, and and he thinks, and he's right, he's telling all sorts of good things. And why should he be bothered with that? Anything that might in any way contradict or be maval with the Inyan v'churu. If somebody wants to work back, wants to go back into the Shorosh Ha'atzmi, and he goes through and he sees in every Inyan like a hell of a Inyan which needs to be removed and to get deeper and deeper into the Amitia Sasoga, and through that, but over Noisaf, to reach this Inyan of purity of light, and the infinite illumination in every message of the Torah. So he said, that's the Inyan of Choize Milmatala Maila, and he said, Halim called over Behelem Achelim, that he's interested, not that he's interested in, you mustn't, it's brought down by the Chassidim, by people understand learning, you shouldn't just stop looking for Kashas, Chas v'Chalila. But the person who goes by Choize, he's not put off by Kashas. On the contrary, he expects them. If he really gets into it genuinely, then usually it produces him with a kasha which leads him to a higher understanding. And therefore he goes Behelem Achelim. Now why does he go Behelem Achelim? Because the more you go upwards towards the Shoresh, then the more one can suggest that the Achmi hides himself. In other words, it's like you chase after something which is really amitius. Then the more you catch up with it, the more it withdraws from you. But ultimately, you reach the emes lamita. That's the famous marshal. What the Baal Shem Tov brought. You heard the famous marshal, the Baal Shem Tov, what they call the Schwindel trap. You heard what they call the swindle stairs. You know those common famous in the words of the Rebbe Nishma Seid, and the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe. Every now and then a marshal from the Schwindel trap. But you never been in the old days in I don't know if it was in your guys' day, but they used to have these sort of like, towers, like big tents. You went up like around in a tower in Luna Park or places like that. Like what you used to do was you sort of go up these stairs and they would go around like in circles around our central big pole in the middle of these stairs. All of a sudden you see you come and you see this beautiful revelation of something like a film, some very powerful, mind-boggling thing, and then you go higher, and you go higher than that, and all of a sudden you don't see anything, you just get into darkness, and the higher you go up, you just seem to be getting into darkness, and all of a sudden, bing, out of nowhere, all of a sudden you see another big revelation. So that's called like a swindle, that when you're on the lower you see, but the higher you go, you don't see anything. And that's called like in Yiddish, a swindle means a swindle. Yeah. It's just a change of a slight, how do you call it, usage of the consonantation, how do you call it, swindle instead of swindle in Yiddish. So what happens is that the higher you go, you seem to be getting closer to whatever you're supposed to be, the less you see. You go higher and all of a sudden you get into a complete dark. Each time you step up much higher, you don't see anything, you don't know where you're going, you're groping. So that's called the swindle trap. That's called, how do you call it, the
Spiral staircase.
Spiral? Yeah, spiral, but not just spiral, but like bluff. It's like a swindle. So that's what it means. That was the Baal Shem Tov said that Dafka, when you want to go higher, was when you're low, you see everything. But when you start going higher, you lose everything. That's when the Koyach HaHelim comes in, because you're really trying to go to the emes, and then you have to struggle through the Helim, and Veda, that Helim is like these kashiyas, But that's dafke on the Indian from Choizer, dafke when you really want to go up to the emes, then you meet these things that are like hiding from you the emes vision. And that's exactly the whole idea here. So that when you go by Choizer, then you reach Helem after Helem, but he knows he's got to keep going upwards, and he won't remain with that Helem. Like he brought down in the previous mimer, he reaches the Helem Ha'achmi, meaning the Koach Hayuli Ha'achmi Halis in the Nefesh, a much greater profundity in the understanding and the Asoga, all of the hidings, how do you call it, all the concealments. That's the Mila, like we saw brought down in the Mila that we learned in Parshat Netzavim, and in Rosh Hashanah we brought down the Mila of Choizer, that the Mila of Choizer is that he reaches a deeper, more profound Indian, and therefore it's working on a different dimension, and therefore you run into darkness on the way. But once you reach the Indian, you reach incomparably higher than the Yoshua, and that's the Indian of Milas Choizer, and that's what we saw in the previous Maimah. That's in the Etzem HaSoga. Omnam oid yesh b'zeh Mila Yesera. There's a further, much greater Mila which we've been discussing this evening. Mashem Avarar Asigim Vapa. First that he gets rid of the Pesel what's there, not mitzad the Asoga, doesn't mitzad the Golas, doesn't mitzad the fact that there's still a certain trace of the Shlita of the Eitz HaDa'as in the whole in of all the Asogas in Torah. They say Magir LaMaila Gam Mibchinas Helem O'achmi the Chochma. V'aynu B'chinas HaTorah K'mo shehi B'chinas Amiti Etz Atzmusa Yizbora. Kafal. So he said he goes. That what we spoke about in our Romans of Bobby Yom, in the Koiches and everything in the Madrega from the Chochma you come to Helem Achmi, the Mamish of the Indian. Oh, but that's Helem Achmi of Chochma. It's in the Koiches Kufa, their highest Madrega, how they are Klulim in the Etzem HaNefesh. Oh, but it's still got to do with Giluyim and Koichos of the Nefesh. Oh, but through the fact is to deal with the light. But that's the ultimate kavanah, the illumination and the message and the oil. This is going to light up the world. And you're busy with taking out the last little traces of the Golas. And you're working in an oven for we want Moshiach. Now, and you're working in the Indian of the Asoga. So then you come to the Indian of the Torah, Kamosha He. Yeah, B'chinas Amitius Atzmusa. You go higher than the Helema Atzmi the Chochma, and you deal with the Eibishter's way. In other words, that you begin to see the way the Eibishter sees things. In other words, that the mensch is granted an unbelievable gift, that he, as it were, he sees the way the Eibishter sees. And therefore, there's a famous story, another famous story, what happened with Reb Zushia. It's also on New Teskis was a good thing to tell about Reb Zushia, because he was the one who gave the Haskama, or he and Reb Yehuda HaKohen, they gave the Haskama on the Tanya, and the Alter Rebbe wouldn't print he had the Haskama. You know the whole story how they met to get on the bridge that leads over from Horodok to Levitebsk. And the same night they were supposed to give the Haskama on the Tanya, and they both were so full of his pilots that they went looking for one another to express how unbelievable his pilots at the altar of his Sefer, Hatanya. And they met on the bridge in the middle of the night going over the river between Horodok and Vitebsk. They went for a dance, holding the Sefer Hatanya in their hands, or the manuscripts of the Sefer Hatanya, and they went a dance in the middle of the night on the bridge over the river between Horodok and Vitebsk. You guys don't know the famous man? That's the Haskama on the Tanya. They both met up. They both wanted to express to one another their unbelievable kilo feelings what they had from reading the Tanya. How they don't really know how they're going to give the Haskama, but they knew they had to, because the Alter Rebbe said he wouldn't print it unless he got it. So they knew they were going to have to do it. So they decided that the best way to work out how to do it was to make a big series of tongues on this big bridge in the middle of the night. Over a river between Horodok and Vitebsk. Anyway, I can see a slight trace of some sort of his pilots that managed to cause in certain places. As Al-Hapanim will say, is Skiveh. So Reb Zushi, another man, Reb Zushi, he used to learn Torah in a very amazing oifen. Whenever he ran up against a kashya, anything like that, it was really a strong kashya, and people weren't able to answer it, he would go into his room on his own, and he would just weep, and he would tell the Eibusha, you have to have Rahmanas, is be Megala Tezushia, was it the Kavanah to it? What do you really mean? Then he would come out later, and people didn't know what he'd been doing in there, and he'd come out and he would say, Ateras, and people would say, where did he keep doing in there? Where did he get? Where did he get us up in Teras? And they said, oh man, and somebody used to learn with him, I think it was Zusha. Big girl, and used to learn with him, and then he used to see him, they'd go into his room, and they'd come back with these unbelievable terutzim. He said, what's going on here? What's it does? And so he looked through the keyhole. He peered through the keyhole when Rav Zusha went into the room, and he sees her mummy's to broken and weeps, and he's weeping and he's crying and he's begging the Avish or something. And then after a certain time he comes out and so he didn't, I suppose he did in a way, but he didn't really chap. He thought he was being Mitzayah Rav Zusha. He thought he was causing him tzar. When they have a kashi, he goes into the room and he weeps. So he said he doesn't think it's the right thing to cause him all this weeping and all this tzar, and maybe he shouldn't, learn with him as a tiff, he shouldn't get into all these kashi. Yes. So afterwards he decided to learn with Rav Zusha, just learn, like the heroes thing, just learn the Indian, but he didn't want to ask him, because he didn't want him to go in there and cry like that in the Shvelta. So weeping and things, and doing it. So in the end, Rav Zusha said to him, he's terribly sorry we can't learn with him anymore. That's not the way he's meant to learn. So the guy said, I don't want you to cause you to weep the whole time. So Rav Zusha understood that he'd worked out the sword. So Rav Zusha said, okay, maybe we shouldn't take a look. He should chap, what's really going on. So there once came a whole group of Misnaidim or something, they asked a Kasha, and a Yerushalmi. It's a stira from the Yerushalmi with a Babli or something. And this is the Rambam took Dafke according to the Yerushalmi, and it seems to be a naked the Babli. So that's not the right way to do things. So they came with a Kashi, and Zusha did this, he went into it, they didn't know what he was doing. He comes out and he answers him, I tell us that really the Babli is not a stira. On the contrary, he didn't understand the Babli, he didn't understand the Gemara, right? I see, this is the pure, this is right. The Yerushalmi is right, and so is the Rambam, everybody's right there. These guys were just absolutely, hamum, they couldn't figure. When the men get some terror, he didn't sit looking in his forum, and he went into his room, so I thought maybe he's got some huge library in there, and he looks up all the his forum, they didn't know it. So they were shown into the Magid, and they said, you got to have Talmud, so, there's Usha. He answered an unbelievable terror to him. What do you say? That's not B'derech HaTorah. They even admitted there wasn't B'derech HaTorah. So the Maggid said, Zusha? He said, Zusha got it from the same place where the Yerushalmi got it. In other words, think to say the Yerushalmi got it for the Eibishter, he got it for the Eibishter. Well, that's what he means. The meat is but you can come to learn Torah. Think to see the Eibishter wants you. Think to see the Eibishter Paskin to say Paskin. In other words, if you come out to the meat, you see him from Torah. Come on, you in the meat is Atzmusa is bara, and then it's another Indian altogether. In the Indian from Torah. I told you once about the Talmud Tzedek. Somebody was a bit upset with the Talmud Tzedek that he said he couldn't say together with him a video or something like that in the same siddur. He said, it's my siddur, I can't have you looking in my siddur when I say the video or something. So he went and complained to the Alter Rebbe. And he said, well, have another year to give him to look in your siddur. Since I'm in the video. So the Alter said, no, he's right. He said, his video and your video, even though you're a very high person, I don't know. He said, his video is another type of video. It's not a video. So, it's another Indian. He said, you and he can't look in the same siddur. So, if it was another part of the siddur, maybe yeah, but not on your kippur, you can't look in the same. I just been a man. So you do it like a simple. what you do. And people will tell you that this is with the old Navy, and there's always new navies. So now the new is Chachis. So it's Chachis, but it comes mitzad amitius atzmusis bara. Mashalo yoda enoish erko. What normal people don't know that value. I put down there in the Yeshaya Novi, yoda enoish erko kiim elokim. Yeah. Kiim elokim having darko. No, the Eibush know he knows the way. So certain people are through this bureau, they can come to know the way the Eibush knows it. Amitis at Ulamayla Mayla mi oir hatoiro shenim shechobepinas oir yosha. In other words, he said this is Ulamayla incomparably higher than Torah comes in a direct light. Oir yosha. Shazeu Masha Yoda Enish. Everybody, I want to say everybody, I mean people know that, because that's the way Torah comes. People learn it properly, and they learn it early, so they know that. This Emeskite of the Oyer HaTorah, who she'ena v'pinas am shocha klal, v'rach elikim zulosecha hevin darko. So he said, this is a Indian and Torah, it's not Baham Shocha. It's not Milmaila, it's not coming down at all. It didn't come down in Nasinas HaTorah, it didn't come down in all the ways that Torah came down. All that was given was a possibility that you should be able to come up to that. Or none of it was given down Begilui HaTorah. And if he said, this is Ki'ilu, a new Indian, this is a Indian, what only the Eibush knew about that particular Indian, but through the Erechoiza first off, and then after the Erechoiza, going even deeper to try and be Mavara, the Amitis are Oyer, and the Emes a message of Torah. What is the Emes Pirush? Lamitis Atoira, Emes Lamitoi, and then you come to the way the Eibush Kavirochel understands it, and that wasn't between some Shocha, that's up there waiting for you. That was given, but it wasn't given downwards. It's waiting for you to get up there, and all it was given by Matan Torah was the possibility that you can get there. But you got to, that you got to do your so. And that is a pellet gesagt. He comes to it like the market said about Rav Zusha. He gets it from the same place as the Yerushalmi got. In other words, that you get up to a Samin Yichud in the Indian from Torah, that you understand Torah the way the Eibush meant be Emes Amiti, that should be the guilt of Torah.
For flippers like us, is this really realistic, or is it?
Yeah, very good question. The little crutches and schleppers like we are, what does that come to tell us? So you have to realize that once you learn a thing like this, then your whole attitude becomes different. So Emes, it could be you won't come to reach that Madrega B'Shlei Musa. The fact that you know that there is such a Indian, and there is an Indian boy from Koseh, that gives you a whole new understanding of what it means, the Indian of Yagir and working hard and this and this. And more important, it gives you an Emes understanding of Emes people who have reached that Madrega, and it makes you relate to them in a completely different way. You understand a person like the Alter Rebbe, you understand a person like the Zushia, and you understand the Rebbe, in a different way. So, people that have reached through their unbelievable Yagir, and to a certain extent through the unbelievable gift that the Eibush gave them to help them along in that Indian, then you have to know that when they say a thing, well, that's to a certain extent pinked as if it for us, as far as we're concerned, that's as pinked as if the Eibush to say. And that's what we see. What are all the Chachamim in the Gemara? What are all the Tanoim, V'Amoroyim? All those people, all of them, hundreds and generations of them, they were people that they all learned that way. And therefore, if you read in the Gemara, Omar Reb Nachman, kach v'kach v'kach, those are Torah min HaShamayim, pinked as if it steht v'yidav Hashem el Moshe. Pinked as over Torah. But we come in the Chanukah, that your light of Chanukah was not mentioned anywhere in the Torah, and you say, you make a bracha, mitzvahs of a tzivano, that he commanded it. I mean, don't find it in the Torah. And my Vipal is the Chachamim. And that's even the Chachamim after the whole Siyum of the Shas. That's only in this man. Well, I don't manage the Siyum Kol Shas. But it's even from the Chachamim, like you said, in this man from Baisheni, when all these inyanim were occurring, these Kiloim, they said, that's the Torah. Why? Because when they said, they took from Elokim Zulaselcha, nobody else apart from you, Eivishter. In other words, every Indian that they said is Ayin Loi Rosa Elokim Zulaselcha. No, man, you got to work harder, you got to wait and hesitate and not be in a hurry, you got to know until you come to the immediate Agilah. So the whole Gemara and all the great Poiskim. You know, that somebody says that Chasam Seifot, Kipaskin the Zayna, you can't really say otherwise today. You have to do it. If that was Makubal. In other words, that certain great Poiskim were Zeicha, that they were Makubal. The Kol HaDeiros in Inyonim Musuyomim, particularly you find it in Europe and other Inyonim, is Ein Malach Loch, I'll say. Because since they were the immediate Poiskim, they were Zeicha to literally, how do you call it? They got it. Kaviocha, where the Yerushalmi or wherever it was, got it. You know? But therefore they set it down. And they once said to the Chasam Sefer, that he used to write these tshuvas, and then he had Einam Yid, which he used to read over his tshuvas. So far, I think it was Einam Eidim or something. I forgot exactly what it was. Somebody used to read over the tshuvas before he sent them out. And so all of a sudden he comes in and he says, Rabbi said, you bring down Erev's Gemara. He said, I think you learned the Gemara B'tumah. You know, I didn't quite understand how that Gemara is a riot to what you're saying. So the Chasam said, Ich habe es geschrieben, that's how I wrote. And he said, yeah. He said, we have to learn the Gemara another way. We have to learn the Gemara the way I said. In other words, even though people think that that's not the pshat in the Gemara, if I wrote that, then they've got to learn the Gemara differently. They've got to say the way I wrote. When you hear a man, your eyes just jolt out and stop. He wrote. I could reread about that. He said, I wrote it. He said, I can learn and understand it. Because he knew he was the Amos at Kibbutz. Who had that? Shua Poisi Kamiti Beisas Man. Amamira does it in it. And if you're the English Erko, Kim Elakim Having Darko. He said, that's beyond the whole union of Yoshua, and that's the union of Batera, that wasn't given down, it's waiting for you. Rach Elakim Zulosecha. I'm sorry, Rach Elakim Zulosek, meaning nobody apart from the Eivishter, meaning only Eivishter, he's not anybody else. The Eivishter himself, Having Darko. He said, that's Kavioho, the playing, it's like the Eivishter playing within his own self. Shashui means like, how he call it, in Yiddish you say spilats, like a playful playing within the self. And that's the word shashuim is indicative of tainu, of how they call it, oine. In other words, there's a oinig achmi which is inside the etzem, and the other we'll see more about that as we go on. We already had a bit about it in Pasha Vayera, the difference between tainug and rotzen. In other words, that's the madrega of the Eivishter, how he's kaviyocho mesanig av Torah b'toich atzmusay. He's mesanig b'atzmusay, and in that gufa he's koiled the inyan of the Torah. Just like a mensch, kaviyocho feels in a very high madrega of the Meiler, kaviyocho of his own self, he feels a certain time of just being what he is, just in being there and being able to be, he feels a certain time. Kaviyocho, the Meiler, there's a certain time of was kaviyocho, the Eivishter, as it were, in his own inyan, his own being, as it were. A kamuvan, he only allows himself to have that, not that he has to have it, but there's a certain trait. In other words, that learning Torah, you come into that time that Hashem has, or that oinig, that he has within himself, but nothing within the Eibush is only just for him within himself greater. But at that time he allowed that to arouse itself inside himself in order that he should eventually give all that over, and he should be called as having kind of in the Avodah, the Nivroim Lamata, and particularly in the Limudah Torah. If I'm through learning Torah, that way you join up with the Eibush in his Oineg and his Shachtas, but take Atzmi, and that's Inif and Shashui Amelabi Atz. That's Inif and Shashui Amelabi Atz. Musay, therefore he said, the Bechina, hi, what's it in Cain? What's it written? Ayin Loi Rosa Elkim Zulasecha. It should be written Ayin Loi Rosa Havaya Zulasecha. It should be written the highest name of the Eibush, talking about such a high madrega in Elokus. Was it the word Elokim? Elokim is always indicative of Yerid of a Tzimtzum and what you might call Kavura of a Din. It was Elokim. So the Rebbe said here the word Elokim is being used in a very special oifa. The B'chinas Elokim, so B'chinas Helem Ha'atzmi, the Ein Seif, Shelamayla M'B'chinas Shema Vayeh. He said this Elokim which is being used here is really Lamayla from the Shema Havayeh, Shehu B'chinas Hagilui, Shehu B'chinas Hagilui. The Indian of Shema Vayeh is how the Eibush is Megala himself, albeit in a very high madrega, but it's a Indian from Gilui. Therefore the Yud and the K and the Vav and the K all represent Giluim, the Yeridas, the Tzimtzumim, the Iskalas. Or B'chinas Elokim, who B'chinas Helem Ho'atzmi Mami. He said here when we say Elokim, Ein Lachanami, we mean Helem, but we mean the Helem of the Etzem. In other words, it's how the Etzem is just by definition Muvdal and higher and incomparably higher than all possible Giluim. Well, that's called Elokim, meaning Mamishti, the way the Eibush is so Nelam that he can never really be known. No, that's called the Helema Atzmi, or that's called here Elokim. In other words, it is a by definition Helem in Atzmas that he can never really be known. It's at the powers of known. Oh, that's called Elokim, and that's higher even than the Shema. That's called higher than because the Shema Vayeh is already a Gilui. The Shema Vayeh is his name that we should know him. We should know Yud, it's Chok, Makei is Bina. Even on higher madregas and Atzila. And so Pamela said to Rebbe, well, that's an amazing chiddush. That the Inyan from Elokim is dafki, that's Mara Alinyana Atzmus Mamish, on the Helim of the Atzmus Mamish. And he said, that's the Inyan from Helim or Atzmi Mamash. Vezeo Masha Atoira Nikus Tushia. That's what we say, Oiz, V'Tushia. Yeah, and we learned the pshat in Tushia is from Russian weakness, and we saw Shimat Keshes as a nefesh Abahomiyas, that the Indian from Torah weakens and breaks the power of the nefesh Abahomiyas. Zeo Davki Mitzad Shoyra Shatoira between its Helem Oatzmi Mamish Shebekoyat Zeh Davke Nidche HaChoyshet the nefesh Abahomiyas. That Davki in that koyach and Davki in that power Nidche the Choshech and the Nefesh HaBahomiyot, Davke Alidei the Madrega van Elokim, meaning the Elokim, how he is, shot to the Helem Ha'achmi Davke, Ukamesh HaKosib L'chutei Torah, Dibo HaMaschil, Ki Ko'oretz Toitei Simcha, because there's posik in I think it's Yirmiyahu or Novi, or in Yeshaya, or one of the Nevi'im, and that's the what do you call it? That's the Haftorah, a parsha in the last Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. It's written over there, Ki Eretz Toitzitzimcha, Kain Yatzmiach Tzedakah Usehila Neged Koragoi. Just like the earth brings forth its growth, and the Eibush will bring forth this Indian Tzedakah Utehila Neged Koragoyim. There's a pasuk in the Novi. It says the Alter Rebbe says over there that over there before it says this, it's written Ki Eretz Toitzitzimcha Ube'ir Be'inyan Kain Havaya Elokim. Havaya Elokim. I say that's how it's read. It's written two names of the Eibush. One of them the Shem Avneh, and the other one the Shema Havaya. And the way we read it is we read the Shema Havaya, Adne, and then we say on the Shema Havaya we say Elokim. We don't say the Shema Havaya, no, we say Elokim. And so he writes, how can you read the Shema Havaya Elokim? So he said because the Nikud of the Havaya of the Shema Havaya is Benikud Elokim. In other words, that the Nikud of that Shema Havaya, it's got the same Elokim. In other words, it's got a choilem and a chirik in it, pink to see in the Shem Elokim. In other words, the Shem Havaya has got a different type of nikud of the vowels than what it normally has. And that's the same nikud as the Shem Elokim. If I may, that's called Havaya benikud Elokim, and that's indicatory of a very, very high madrega, and the Alter Rebbe writes over there, that's the inyan from Elokim Zula, so it's the Shem Havaya benikud Elokim, and he said through that is Yatzmir Tzdocha Usehilo Neged Koragoy. So the Alter Rebbe writes over there, just very bekitza, the Alter Rebbe writes that the Shem Havaya benikud Elokim, which we call Elokim, we read it Elokim. The Kri is, when you read it Elokim. And the first Shem is read like the Shem Havaya. So he said you go through the Shem Havaya, as it were, into a higher madrega called Shem Elokim. The Nikud of the Havaya and Shem Elokim is read Elokim. And he said that's the Elokim, which is called the Atmas. And he said, why? He said, because that's such a high madrega that even the Shem Havaya is like a Shem Elokim, like everything. That's why it's got this Nikud Elokim. Because even Shem Havaya, compared to this madrega, itself is like a Elokim. In other words, that even the Shem Havaya is like a Helem. It's so high that the Shem Havaya itself becomes like a Helem. And the immediate madrega of that can only be called the singing from the Shem Elokim. Why? Because it's a Helem Atzmi. That's no longer the Helem. Mitzad Ezadova Hamalim. Now this is the Helem of the Atzmis himself. That's what the Alter Rebbe writes over there in that famous Maimon. It's just before Rosh Hashanah. It's Maimon just before the Drushim of Rosh Hashanah. And the Alter Rebbe said that's the inyan for Tehillah, that he'll make Tehillah. So the Alter Rebbe says that's Russian Behilu Neiroi Al Reishai Tehillah is Russian Oyer. So he says that the Nefesh Apam is Choyshe. This is what the Alter Rebbe over there. The Nefesh Apam is even Helen Choyshe. Like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Perikov Test, how you doiche the Choyshe Lagamri is if you bring Emesa Oyer, then automatically the Choyshe just folds up in front of the, it just completely disappears in front of the Oyer. The Oyer is doiche Choyshe. But in order to do that, you got to have an Emesa Oyer. Godel, Vatakif, which will be mayor against the Choyshe, and the Choyshe just falls away altogether. So the Alter Rebbe writes over there, Davki in this Manim, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim, B'churi, what the man is rebuilding the whole Binyan, it's a very amazing Moshe, he brings out the idea, you start all over again, Binyan Hamaltas, you build yourself all over again from nowhere, and he said, you start all over again, and you're building everything with Chodosh, the Alidei Chua, and all those inyanim which are connected with Rosh Hashanah, then there shines this inyan of the Atzmas Mamish, and he just pushes away all the things that might prevent the new building. What this is the Nefesh Haba Homiyot, and he pushes them away in those eyes, and they just become bottle again. Misbattling better minyono, because the oil shines into the etzah, and it comes the emes oil, and the Choshet says no. Why? That's what the Alter Rebbe writes. If you get to that madrega, the inyan from the Shem Elokim, how it's mamish, amitis atzmusa is barak, then everything falls away. The whole nefesh habahami and all the shit falls away. And there's how do you call it? There's meir de oyer ha emes mamish. So I think that's a good point to pause, not chashon. If you pause with a point like that, you don't pause. You keep going with a tremendous burst and tremendous energy from having learned such a point of Al-Chapanim. You might say, well, that's a Maimon, look at Rosh Hashanah, what's it got to do with us? We're holding already way over in Kislev, you know, Halavayla, and then we'd even remember it's a Shmektabik from what we're supposed to be doing on Rosh Hashanah. What is the answer? You got it wrong, it's Rosh Hashanah all over again now. We're seeing from New Test Kislev. Yeah, Rosh Hashanah, the Torah Satzidus, and the Tachya, it's Rosh Hashanah all over again. I had mentioned over there again that the Alter Rebbe really held it to be Ayot. The Alter Rebbe is people are going to say to the Ain in Marav to Shabbos. I don't know what he did. Was he given a poyo? But the Alter Rebbe said such a thing. He said, he meant this from Be'emes HaYontav. Be'emes HaYontav, Yontav Shel Rosh Hashanah. The fire, this whole in to come up into the Havaya B'Nikud Elakim. To beat the senior. Elakim Surat Tzachar. Omikeni Hi. Rotzah. Well, there should be Meir the Emislah, Amiti, and all these other terrible things that are happening, and also be Mispatel. Things that don't have Shabam years, it's possible that these things should also be Batel, but others have Bittel, taken from Yad Afshar. So, everybody will be up early in the morning, tomorrow morning, calling Yanni Ma'ilu, and the Seder, Kamosh Tori, everybody functioning and with. And we'll all fly into Kislev and into the Chasna, one of our Talmudim, Ayikorim, V'chule. From Aliyah Sachraya, Aliyah. So Tuesday night I won't be able to give because I'm leaving for England, because it's 7 short to Clavers. So we hope everybody will gather together and learn and do Chazor and do Inyanim, which are Ra'uyim. From a Talmud of working Clown, in fact, from the Shia, Gwadl of Yosa in the evening for Siddhis, Yuchat, that everybody will sit and learn and do what they're supposed to do. Not wander around and not betray into other inyonim and not to be found in other places. And Kosh came with Kalkema, not to come and say, oh, I picked tonight, I didn't feel so well, and I wasn't this, and I wasn't something kills, and I can't, and I'm not able to do this, and again. Everybody will be here with the whole brand, Beis Hashem, and then on the Sunday night I'm going to get back just a bit late. I'll be arriving in Eretz, so a bit late for me to come and give a share. So those two shurim will miss. What's going to happen is that we're going to move into Tuesday night's already Chanukah. So I hope we've already been to Beis Hamikdash. I don't want to talk too far ahead. I don't like talking too far ahead. We're talking to them. So what we'll have to do in our shiur, there's going to be a whole long Chanukah, Baruch Hashem. That's what we'll try to do. You can turn it off if you want.